The starship Vanguard drifted through the empty reaches of space, its metallic hull gleaming under the distant light of the Kepler system's twin suns. On board, Commander Alicia North stood in the observation deck, her gaze fixed on a distant, emerald-hued planet Xylox 7. It had once been classified as uninhabitable, a wasteland of toxic gases and relentless storms, but new data suggested something different. Anomalous life signals, pulsing from the planet's surface. "Commander," said Lieutenant Elias Ross, a young but skilled xenobiologist, stepping up beside her. "The readings are consistent. We have movement down there, but it's strange." "Strange how?" Alicia asked, her fingers tracing the edge of the control panel. "It's like they're not fully organic. Half alive, half something else," Ross replied, showing her the holographic projections of what appeared to be life forms. "Whatever they are, they're not human. But they're not entirely alien either." Alicia narrowed her eyes. The crew had expected to find nothing but barren rock and chemical wasteland. But now, this green-skinned creatures, whose signatures echoed life but distorted into something unrecognizable. They called them the Xyloxians. No one knew what these creatures truly were or how they could survive on a planet as inhospitable as Xylox 7. "Prepare the landing party," Alicia said. "We're going down there. I want answers." As the shuttle Zephyr sliced through Xylox 7's turbulent atmosphere, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. The green haze that surrounded the planet thickened as they descended, blocking out the stars and casting an eerie glow over the landscape below. The planet's surface, once thought to be barren, now revealed dense forests of twisted, thorny vegetation, all with an unnatural green glow. But more unsettling were the figures moving between the trees, slender, elongated forms with skin that shimmered like molten emerald, eyes glowing with an intensity that sent shivers down the spines of the crew. "Those are the life forms?" Lieutenant Ross asked, his voice tight with anxiety as he peered through the shuttle's viewport. "Not just life forms," Alicia replied, narrowing her gaze. "Survivors. When they touched down, the atmosphere hummed with a strange energy. The air was thick with a scent they couldn't identify, something ancient, wild, and almost sentient." Stepping out onto the surface, the crew was greeted by a creature standing at the edge of the forest, its green eyes locked onto Alicia. "We've been waiting," it said in perfect, if mechanical, English. The creature, which called itself Xerath, claimed that Xylox 7 had once been home to a thriving civilization, one that had mastered the art of genetic manipulation and bioengineering. Long before the galaxy had even known of humanity, the Xyloxians had experimented with their own biology, creating hybrids of organic and artificial life. "But your kind interfered," Xerath said, his voice echoing in the minds of the crew. "Centuries ago, an expedition from your world landed here. They brought something with them, a sickness that mutated us, twisted our bodies and minds." Ross frowned. "Mutated? Into what?" Xerath's glowing eyes darkened. "Into monsters." The planet's green inhabitants were not the original Xyloxians, but survivors of this horrific mutation, beings who had lost their humanity, yet retained some vestiges of their former selves. Worse still, the disease was contagious, infecting the human explorers who had come before them. Those humans had morphed into grotesque creatures that still roamed the wilds, mindless and aggressive. As the crew explored deeper into Xylox 7, they encountered these mutated humans, creatures once like themselves, now twisted into towering muscular beasts with pale, translucent skin. They moved in packs, stalking the crew as they searched for answers in the ruins of an ancient city. Alicia and Ross discovered that the Xyloxians had been working on a cure, an elusive formula hidden deep within the core of the planet's ancient biotechnology. But they had failed, and now the remnants of that research were the crew's only hope of survival. "The infection is in the air," Xerath warned. "You're already breathing it. It's only a matter of time before you become like them." But the crew had no choice. Their only hope was to find the ancient laboratory, hidden somewhere deep within the jungle. As they ventured further, tension grew within the group. Some began to feel the effects of the mutation, a slight discoloration in their skin, strange thoughts invading their minds. With time running out, the crew found themselves torn between finding the cure and escaping before the mutation fully took hold. But as they neared the ancient laboratory, tensions reached a breaking point. One of the crew members, Sergeant Lyle, had secretly been working for a rival faction on Earth. His mission had been to retrieve the mutation for military purposes, no matter the cost. Lyle's betrayal threatened to doom them all, but in a desperate act of defiance, Alicia fought back. In a deadly confrontation, she managed to stop him, but not before he unleashed a new wave of mutations across the group. The ancient lab, buried deep within the planet's core, held the cure, but it came at a cost. In order to activate it, someone had to sacrifice their biological essence, merging with the planet itself. Zareth offered himself, knowing that it would save not only the crew but also his people. In a climactic battle against time and the mutating forces, Alicia, Ross, and the remaining crew fought off the monstrous hordes as Zareth initiated the final process. As the cure spread across the planet, reversing the mutations, the crew found themselves standing on a renewed Xylox 7. A world where humans and aliens had both suffered, but could now rebuild together. As the dust settled and the eerie green glow of the mutated landscape began to fade, Xylox 7 transformed before the crew's eyes. The once twisted and menacing vegetation softened, turning into lush, vibrant greenery, more reminiscent of Earth. The air, which had been heavy with the scent of decay, now carried a clean, fresh aroma. The sickening, oppressive atmosphere that had clung to them like a second skin was lifted. Zareth stood before the crew, weakened but standing tall, his sacrifice complete. His emerald eyes, once glowing with a strange, alien energy, now seemed softer, more human. The process had not only cured the mutations but had also brought him and his people back to their original forms. They were no longer the hybrid beings of bioengineering and mutation. They were, at last, whole again. Alicia stepped forward, her eyes scanning the changed world. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved us all." Zareth nodded. "But at a cost. My people are free, but I will remain bound to this planet, forever linked to its core. The cure cannot be undone for me." Ross, who had been silent for most of the journey, stepped forward. "What now? What happens to us? To humanity? We've seen what this mutation can do. There will be others who come, looking to weaponize it." Zareth's expression darkened. "The planet is in balance now, but it must be protected. The secrets of Xylox 7 cannot leave this place. You will need to destroy any evidence of this mutation before you leave." Alicia hesitated, knowing the gravity of the decision. Destroying the data meant wiping out everything they had learned, the technology, the bioengineering, and even the possibility of understanding how to replicate the cure. But allowing it to fall into the wrong hands could mean disaster. "I agree," she said firmly. "We can't let this fall into anyone else's hands." As the crew prepared to leave Xylox 7, they faced one final challenge. The remaining mutated creatures, those too far gone to be cured, had sensed the change and were in a frenzy. The primal, beastly remains of the mutated humans had become increasingly aggressive as their world slipped away, and now they were hunting down the crew. The final dash to the shuttle was chaotic. With the planet's atmosphere still unstable from the cure's effects, storms lashed the landscape. The ground shook violently as the creatures closed in, their guttural howls echoing through the jungle. Alicia and Ross led the survivors in a desperate fight for survival. Their numbers had dwindled after Lyle's betrayal, and the few who remained were exhausted and on the verge of mutation themselves. But their determination to escape gave them the strength to push through. One by one, they boarded the shuttle, fighting off the creatures that clawed at the hull. Just as the shuttle lifted off the ground, one of the creatures leaped onto the wing, its claws raking across the metal. "Get it off!" Ross shouted, grabbing a plasma rifle and taking aim. Alicia didn't hesitate. With a precise shot, the creature was blasted off the wing, falling into the green abyss below. The shuttle climbed higher, breaking through the planet's atmosphere, and for the first time since they had arrived, the crew saw the stars again. Back aboard the Vanguard, Alicia stood on the bridge, staring at the image of Xylox 7 on the view screen. The planet looked peaceful from space, its green hues blending with the swirling clouds of the atmosphere. It was hard to believe that such chaos and danger existed beneath the surface. Zaratha's voice echoed in her mind, a parting message from their final moments on the planet. Your people are stronger than you realize, but strength alone will not save you from what's out there. She didn't fully understand what he meant, but she knew that their encounter with the Xyloxians was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and dangers far beyond their comprehension. But for now, they had survived. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger for it. Course set for Earth, Ross said from his station. Alicia nodded. Engage. As the Vanguard slipped into hyperspace, leaving Xylox 7 far behind, Alicia allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had come to this planet seeking answers, and though they had found them, the cost had been great. Friends lost, mutations narrowly avoided, and an entire civilization changed forever. But there was hope. Zaratha's people would rebuild, and humanity had been spared from a catastrophe that could have reshaped the galaxy. And yet, as Alicia stared out at the stars, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The universe had many more secrets to reveal, and she intended to uncover them. One planet, one mystery at a time. The Vanguard sailed silently through the void of space, heading back toward Earth. Alicia stood in front of the observation window, gazing out into the endless expanse of stars. Despite everything they had endured, a strange sense of peace had settled over her. Xylox 7 was behind them now, and the danger of the mutation was contained. But she knew the galaxy had more mysteries left to uncover. Ross walked up beside her, his expression one of quiet relief. We made it, he said softly. We did, Alicia replied, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The memory of Zaratha's sacrifice and the transformation of his people weighed heavily on her. There was a bittersweetness to their victory. Ross leaned against the railing, looking out at the stars with her. You think we'll ever go back there? Alicia shook her head. Not unless we have to. Some places are better left alone. He nodded, then smiled faintly. But we survived. And maybe that's enough. As they stood side by side, the distance that had always been between them seemed to vanish. The connection they had forged during their perilous mission was undeniable, and in that moment, they both knew it. Slowly, Ross took her hand in his, the warmth of his touch sending a subtle thrill through her. Alicia turned to face him, her heart racing slightly. For a brief second, the weight of their shared experience dissolved, leaving only the two of them. The harsh reality of space faded away, replaced by something more human, more intimate. Without words, they moved closer, their breaths mingling as they finally closed the distance between them. And in the quiet of the ship, amid the stars and the endless night, they found a moment of peace, together. The journey had been treacherous, the costs high, but in the end, they had survived. Alicia and her crew had faced the unknown and emerged stronger. But the galaxy was vast, and many more adventures awaited them. For now, though, they had found peace, if only for a moment. The stars stretched out before them, full of possibility, full of danger. And Alicia knew, deep down, that their story was far from over.